Welcome, listeners, to The Advisor with Stacey Chillemi, where we explore the transformative ideas through thought leaders who are pushing boundaries in personal growth, healing, and self-discovery. Today, I'm honored to welcome a truly exceptional guest, Andrew Cort. Andrew is an acclaimed author, healer, and teacher whose multidisciplinary approach weaves together the philosophy, spirituality, and practical tools for transformation. His newest book is an inspiring exploration of how ancient wisdom and modern insights can guide us through authentic healing and fulfillment. In addition to his writing, Andrew offers healing sessions tailored to restore energy, dissolve limited beliefs, and promote overall well being through his guided visualization and power intuitive practices. He's also a creator and upcoming online course he's coming out with soon this fall, and it's filled with practical techniques for this continuing of your healing journey. And he's genuinely offers listeners a complimentary copy of his short book, The Real Cause of Pain and Sickness, and what you can do about it just for signing up on his website. Andrew's work reminds us that healing isn't just about fixing what's wrong, it's about reconnecting with the truth of who we are. Today, we're going to dive into the heart of his latest book, his unique healing philosophy, and the exciting online course that he's developing, and the transformative concepts that inform his practice. Get ready for an enlightening conversation that could shift your perspectives and spark new possibilities. Andrew, I'm so excited to have you on the show today. It's a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for me too. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're very welcome. So, can you tell people a little about yourself and what took you on this path of spirituality and healing?
Well, I've been interested in spirituality for a long time since I was in high school, really, and certainly blossomed when I was in college in the late 60s. I'm 74 now. This has been going on for a long time, and I've gone through a lot of changes and a lot of evolution in my own thinking, my own spiritual ideas. I wrote a lot of books some years ago based on the idea that our spiritual journey, which in Socrates' terms was learning how to perfect your soul, taking your inner psyche and your inner self from this material consciousness back to communion with the divine, that journey is written about symbolically in all the Western scriptures and myths. The basic one being when the Hebrews go from enslavement in Egypt all the way at the end of their journey to freedom in the promised land. That's really an inner journey, and it's an instruction manual symbolically for the inner journey that our soul takes. And in the Greek myths, as Demeter and Persephone go from Hades home to Olympus, it's the same story. And Christ going from the Jordan River through the cross and home to the Father is the same journey, the same story. One thing I learned in those, well, I'll tell you two things I learned quickly in that work that I did some years ago. One, at every step along the way, there's a male and a female character. There's a masculine and a feminine influence, and you can't take the next step without both.
Right.
The other thing I learned was that all these religions are telling the same story about the same goal. We're all on the same path, on the same boat, going to the same place. And the idea of religious hatred and bigotry and war and killing each other is just really stupid because it's all really the same one religion, just told in different ways to different groups of people in different parts of the world at different times. But it's the same journey. We're all on the same journey. There's a wonderful Hindu story that people are going up a mountain, and the only one who's on the wrong path is the one who's running around the mountain telling everybody else that they're going the wrong way. But everyone's going to the same place. So I had that spiritual way of thinking about things, that we were perfecting our soul, and really it's an initiation kind of idea, going through the stages and the steps to become initiated and enlightened. About 7 or 8 years ago, I came to a new conclusion. Not that I abandoned the first, but I kind of joined them together. And that is, maybe we're not here to suffer and endure and go through obstacles and hope for something better in the next life. maybe we're here to enjoy and appreciate this incredible, magnificent existence that we've been allowed to experience here, and that we should be happy and appreciative and grateful and thrilled every moment with this life.
Yeah.
Well, that was very hard for me for a while because, frankly, although I've had a very interesting life and had a lot of teachers and teaching and experiences and even half a dozen professions, um, I had been diagnosed with a lot of sickness when I was in my early 20s, an arthritic condition that was quite disabling. And through the years, despite how wonderful and blessed my life was in many ways, the idea of being successful in life was never part of my journey.
Yeah.
And as a result of the pain and illness and the resulting difficulty of making money and uh, when you're poor and you're sick, women aren't really that interested in you, so relationships were not on top of the world with me. And I went through a lot of this gloominess about my life, and I always blamed fate or DNA or God or other people. And when I came to this idea that to be spiritual meant to be happy and joyful and love this life, it dawned on me that, well, if that's the case, I'm not very spiritual at all, and I
Yeah.
have to shift this.
Hmm.
And so at that point, I started working with just listening to tape after tape after tape and video after video after video of Esther Hicks and Wayne Dyer and other people who just promoted be happy, just make yourself happy.
Yeah.
And learning finally that being happy isn't something you wait for when the world gets better. It's
Hmm.
something you do. It's
Yeah.
something you create. And in fact, I finally learned that, well, I wasn't unhappy because I was had all these physical and relational and financial problems.
Hmm.
I had all these problems because I was miserable.
Yes.
I was the responsible party. I was creating this vibration, and I learned that, as we were mentioning before we started talking here today, vibrations resonate. And when you send out misery and gloominess and unhappiness, that's what you vibrate. And those are the vibrations you draw to you through the resonance principle of vibration. And you just get more and more things to be miserable about.
Hmm.
And when you turn that around internally, and the real work isn't fixing the circumstances of life, the real work is changing yourself.
Hmm.
And I worked very hard for a long time on really changing myself, working with happiness, gratitude, courage, and confidence, faith in myself, faith in the benevolence and wonder of the universe, knowing that I'm a divine, sacred being and I am worthy. This took some doing to
Yeah.
shift my consciousness to not just say those things, but to start believing them.
Yeah.
But everything changed. I'm 74 years old now. I've never felt this healthy and alive. I've never made so much money. I've never been in such a wonderful relationship. It's just life has completely shifted, and I didn't fix any of it. I
Mhm.
fixed me, and
Right.
the universe took care of it all and said, "Oh, okay, this is a new person. Let's give him a new life."
Right.
And the book I wrote is kind of the culmination of all I did and learned um, during those few years and all the practices that I practiced and how I used them. It starts with shifting your mindset.
Hmm.
Then it goes into now you have to clear away the debris of all the negativity and limiting beliefs. So
Hmm.
I talk about how you get inside and really work with yourself deeply to bring up those limitations and all that negativity. You don't get rid of them per se, they have nowhere to go,
Yeah.
but you dissolve your attachment to them.
Hmm.
And then you can reattach your focus toward what you desire and want and all you wish and hope to be.
Yeah.
So once you've shifted your mindset, which is about realizing you're a sacred divine part of God,
Hmm.
and I don't use that word as an outer entity who's up in the sky thinking of ways to get even with us when we're naughty. That God is everything, every cell, every planet, every universe, the whole multiverse, every person, everything.
Mhm.
So there's nothing to be made of except God. So you're made of God, so you're God. We are God. And we're a conscious expression, both an individual piece and the totality of the whole thing, a wonderful divine paradox.
Mhm.
When you shift to that mindset, that's where creative power comes from, because God is a creator. And if
Mm.
you're God, you are a creator. And you shift that mindset from there's nothing real but this material, messy reality where I'm having this nightmare and can't fix anything, to
Mhm.
I'm God, I'm perfect, I'm powerful, this is wonderful. And when you make that shift and then you clear away all the negative debris that's in your way,
Yeah.
then, and in my opinion, only usefully then, you start using all the tools and strategies that are talked about in all kinds of manifestation books,
Right.
affirmations, visualizations, practicing gratitude journals, and all of those things.
Mhm.
But you're just spinning your wheels if you haven't done the first work to make
Right.
way. So that's what the book is about. So then there are lots of bits about all these different kinds of tools. And I end with short chapters on the three things I think most people are interested in: shifting to a life of abundance, shifting to a life of healing and health, and shifting to a life of love and being loved.
I love that.
And that's the book.
Now, what inspired you to write the book, and what do you hope readers will gain from it?
Well, I've always loved writing. As I said, I've been writing different things for many, many years.
Yeah.
What inspired me was the changes I went through and the success I had, albeit slow at first, but then it sped up and then it really became very dramatic in time. And I realized that what I was being shown, because I don't think this all came from little me, and I think I
Mhm.
got a lot of help in this, which I'm very grateful. It really is true. It really works.
Right.
And I feel that I've always been interested in being a healer. I've had a healing practice off and on for many years, but healing people and helping people and being of service
Hmm.
has always been, in my mind, expressing who I feel I really am and wish to be.
Yes.
So between that and the writing and the experiences with this work that I had myself, I sat down and very quickly wrote this book last summer. I say very quickly because all the affirmations and all the information and all the tools, all the strategies, all the techniques, I already had them because I'd been
Right.
using them so long. And I just had to kind of gather them from my notes and pieces on the internet and put them all together. And very quickly, I had this book with just a little editing to do.
Right. Oh, that's amazing. Now, your book emphasizes on the phase from above the down. Can you explain how this shapes the philosophy behind your message?
Yes, it's from the above down. I kind of mentioned this a bit before. The first step is shifting that mindset
Hmm.
to not being a separate physical person in this material universe, which is full of obstacles and difficulties, and I don't seem to be doing very well, and I'm always struggling.
Right.
The first line of chapter one is, "You are God."
Hmm.
Well, that's a huge mind shift for the kids who went to parochial schools to just about everyone.
Yeah.
You are God. But then I try to clarify when I say that I don't mean an invisible friend in the sky who punishes you if you're bad. I
Hmm.
mean the totality of the sacred, divine, magnificent universe that we're all part of. Everything, everyone, everything is sacred and wonderful. And
Right.
you are a sacred, magnificent piece of God, expressing a part of God in this individuality.
Mhm.
And your task overall is to remember that you are God.
Right.
And everything is one. We are all one. And the universe isn't against you. You're against you if you send out the wrong vibrations. It's all forgiven. There's
Right.
nobody out there punishing you. But you can learn to send out the vibrations of what you want and change and shift your life because you do have that power from the real inner spiritual divinity that you truly are. So making that shift is taking your life from above. And
Hmm.
I don't mean up in the sky. We use words like north and south in directions, but it's really inner or above, but it's just higher levels, higher states of being.
Yeah.
Starting from there, rather than starting from here,
Right.
where you're just spinning your wheels trying to fix everything and thinking you're powerless and unworthy.
Oh, I love that.
So that shift is what I mean by above down. It starts there.
Hmm.
And then you start doing the work that you can
Right.
do with yourself.
I love that. Now, how does the idea of multiverse play into the themes
Mm.
of your book?
Yes, the subtitle of the book is I'm going to read it because I'm getting nervous, I guess. By create yourself anew from above down by choosing who and what you prefer to be in this multiverse of all possibilities. So we're living in an infinity, and
Hmm.
infinity means infinity.
Right.
There's just everything and everywhere in all directions, north, south, east, west, in front of me, behind me, and it just goes infinitely through time, through space, through history, into the future. But it's all right now.
Yeah.
It all exists in this one timeless moment right here.
Hmm.
Within that infinity, now taking the perspective of being in this marvelous experience of this world that we're in, an ancient idea, which modern physics, in particular modern science, since the 50s has been acknowledging more and more, is that there are infinite universes.
Right.
Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about this, the quantum physicists talk about this, and of course the ancients talked about this.
Right.
This multi-dimensions or different timelines or infinite worlds and infinite universes, they all kind of mean the same thing, but all possibilities exist.
Right.
Everything exists. And if all possibilities exist, that means there's a version of you in a horrible world, nothing like this,
Yeah.
and there's a version of you in a magnificent world where you're already experiencing everything you want and
Right.
everything in between. All those exist. But
Right.
somewhere in the multiverse, you are experiencing exactly who you wish to be. And
Right.
that isn't somebody else, that is you. You are all these beings, even though we're not aware and conscious of it because of our limited ego mentality, but it all
Right.
exists.
Hmm.
And when people talk about manifesting, I suggest to people that manifesting doesn't mean creating something new that never existed before.
Right.
Manifesting means shifting your vibration to resonate with the vibration of the life that you desire, which already exists.
Right.
So you're not creating something that didn't exist before. You're remembering that it does exist, knowing that it does exist, and deciding and choosing, well, I want to live that life. I
Yeah.
don't have to live this miserable life anymore that I've been attracting with all, in my case, all that gloominess and misery. I don't have to live that life anymore. I can choose another.
Yeah.
I'm a creator. I can choose another, and it's already there. All I have to do is learn to express the vibration of having that life
Right.
and affirming it. That's part of it. Visualizing it so your body experiences it, all
Hmm.
your cells experience it. All those tools blend you together with the life you want.
Right.
You don't change the world. The world is the way it is. You
Yeah.
just decide not to live in this dimension anymore.
Right. Oh, I agree. I agree. Now, what lessons can your book teach us about healing and transformation?
Well, certainly there are a few. One of them, the biggest one, is that you are a creator. You are a powerful being. And when you take that stance, everything is going to change.
Hmm.
Another is that you've been telling yourself in your subconscious voices about being unworthy and unhappy and unable to do this and you can't do that. All these voices that mostly you got in the first 5 or 7 years of your life from parents or teachers or siblings or on television or whatever the kids today are looking at all day on the screens. You're getting these messages, and they were probably many cases simply innocent. Daddy was mad and he said something he didn't mean,
Yeah.
but little Johnny heard it and has been repeating it to himself for the last 50 years.
Right.
The other thing is they were actually protecting you from danger and change.
Hmm.
Now you're a grown up and you don't need that protection anymore, and you want to expand and go outside of the box and live all the thrills of life. But you have these voices that hold you back.
Yeah.
I tell people that you can dig into those voices, and I have techniques I use in my practice and that I talk about in the book. You can dig into those voices, you can bring them to the surface, bring them into the light of consciousness.
Hmm.
Dark things don't like the light. You bring
Right.
them into the light of consciousness, they start dissipating. And in particular, your attachment to them lets go and dissipates.
Right.
But if you've been telling yourself every day for the last, in my case, 70 years, you're unworthy, you'll never make anything of yourself. And now this week you start affirming over and over again, I'm wealthy and I can do and be whatever I want. I'm wealthy. Well, you say that for a few days and a few weeks even.
Yeah.
Who's going to win that argument? Is the voice that's entrenched for your whole life. So
Yeah.
it takes time and it takes work and it takes repetition. You
Right.
have to clear those voices away over and over again, layer by layer by layer, because there's lots of them. And then you start rewiring your subconscious by with the beliefs you choose to believe. And you
Right.
say them often enough, they become a belief. You start believing them because they become second nature, but it's
Hmm.
not going to become second nature in a day or an
Right.
hour, maybe even in a month. Now, I started working with affirmations and visualizations, and only later did I start recognizing the value of working on getting rid of limiting beliefs and those attachments to negativity. That
Right.
speeds it up a whole lot.
Yeah.
But even with that, you have to go through a lot of layers of that, and it will still take some time to really convince your inner self, I guess he's serious. I guess he means it. I'm going to start telling him that we're worthy and we can have, do, and be what we want. But it's not going to do that in a day. So that's the thing that people have to be patient. And also, two contradictory things I'm not going to say. One is not only be patient, but be appreciative. Look at all
Right.
you've learned from this experience.
Yeah.
And it's just an experience.
Right.
It's not good or bad in itself. You've had this experience, you've been living it. It's taught you many things. There's nothing wrong with it. Now
Right.
you choose to have a different experience. And you
Right.
can be appreciative and say goodbye to the pieces you don't want anymore.
Hmm.
But they're not bad. They're not terrible, and neither are you. You just make different choices. The other thing is, I said it takes some time to do these things. But of course, time only exists in this level of consciousness, in this time-space reality. There's no
Yeah.
time. If you are totally and completely, totally faithful and knowing who and what you really are as a
Right.
divine God, well, then there's no time. It happens instantly because there's only this instant.
Hmm.
But that's not easy to get completely out of the headset of
Yeah.
this world where I'm me and you're you and those flowers are those flowers and where it's all separate and we're going to get old and the flowers are going to die and everything's changing all the time. That's really an illusion, but it's a wonderful illusion. And we're here to have the dream. We're here to enjoy the show.
Right.
Watch it, yeah.
That's so true. Now, what challenges did you face in your own journey that of self-transformation, and how did you evolve to overcome them?
Well, there was the health issues and what they were doing, what I was letting them do to me. What
Right.
I was a victim. I blamed everyone and everything,
Hmm.
and I had to shift out of that.
Right.
So I'd been waiting and praying and hoping that one day it would all get better, and
Hmm.
getting more and more frustrated because it didn't get better, and it didn't get better because I wasn't changing, and I'm the cause of it all. So I overcame a lot of that. And I had to be patient. I can't say that my health is 100% even to this day. I still more growth to do. There are still obviously things I'm clinging to and holding on to.
Right.
It's an ever going wonderful process.
Hmm.
It becomes fun and enthusiastic and grand instead of horrible and distasteful and frustrating. But it goes on because I'm sure you have listeners who have issues and problems that are not as deep as some others, and you have listeners whose problems are deeper than some others, and it'll vary how quickly they can, achieve the changes they want to achieve. But anyone can change. You can't not change.
Yes.
In this level of reality that we're experiencing in time and space, you're a completely new human being every moment.
Right.
There's a you've probably heard of him, a channeler, Daryl Anka, who says he's channeling a extraterrestrial being named Bashar. Now, I can't tell you that this is what's happening. I don't know, but I don't care. What he says is incredibly wonderful. And one of the things he emphasizes over and over again is you become a totally new person billions of times every second.
Mm.
The reason you seem to have this continuity is because you keep creating the same emotions and the same beliefs over and over again. And so you keep attracting pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
But you have the choice billions of times a second to
Yes.
choose a whole different experience of living.
Right.
I think he's probably right. I can't vouch for the number of billions, but I can vouch for change. Everything changes. I mean, Heraclitus, before Socrates, was talking about you can't step in the same river twice.
Yeah.
Everything is changing.
It's so true. Now, if listeners could take away just one key idea or actionable insight from your book, what would you want that to be?
The one deepest key insight is that you are God. You
Mhm.
are the creator. Now you're both. You're in this world. We were put here deliberately for a reason to experience individuality, to
Yep.
experience time and space, to experience life, not just to be the conceptual knowing of the divine.
Right.
But you are both.
Hmm.
And we get so enthralled by this that we forget that.
That's true.
And then we're lost. That's
Yes.
okay. It's not bad. But
Right.
what you may start wanting for yourself is to start remembering who
Yes.
you are. You're in this world, but you're not of it. You're of a
Right.
much higher level of being. And when you remember that, well, it doesn't really matter what goes on in this life. Everything's just divine and wonderful. So you can
Yeah.
start right there feeling happy. And then this whole world will start changing.
Love that. It's so
That's
true.
that's the biggest take I would offer people is you are God and you
Hmm.
are perfect just as you are.
Yes. Now, what sets your healing sessions and practices apart from other approaches out there?
Well, one is the eclectic approach. I mean, I use a lot of pieces, but most of those pieces I've just been talking about because they're the same as in the book. I help people shift their mindset. I work with getting rid of the limitations that they're causing themselves and help them bring them into consciousness and let go of them. I get people into kind of a trance state. This is the second part of my healing session. I get them into a kind of trance state and have them ask their higher self questions like, what am I believing about myself that's causing me to be stuck in this? What am
Yes.
I afraid of? What would happen that I'm afraid of if I became exactly who I want to be? Asking those questions, and when you're in a deep trance state, your higher self
Hmm.
answers you and talks to you. It might talk to you in a couple of words or a symbol or a sensation in your body or an emotional feeling. If you start listening to a long-winded answer, that's your ego trying to protect itself. So when
Hmm.
you ask yourself a question, it's what instantly comes up intuitively.
Yes.
And I find that works much better in a deep trance state deep within oneself, where you listen and you hear what's being said intuitively. Before I bring people into that trance, though, I work physically and energetically. I One thing I believe is that this is a benevolent universe, and if you ask for healing, healing comes to you. But this is
Yes.
a vibrational universe. So
Hmm.
your asking is vibrational. You might say, I want to get over this disease.
Hmm.
But that's your ego talking, and you're still sending out the vibration of believing there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
Well, you have to shift that
Yeah.
because you're sending out a vibration, and I help people send out vibrations of what they truly want. And
Right.
then the vibration is answered. Healing comes. But if your body's like this, and your
Mhm.
mind is like this, and your heart is angry and full of negativity, none of that can get through.
Yes.
So deep relaxation is a key element to self-healing. And I
Yes.
believe that self-healing is healing. I'm a helper. I'm not a healer. I
Right.
help people heal by opening up to healing energies that are always there.
Right.
I know there are blockages in their energy field,
Hmm.
and I work on those by trying to shift my own vibration to the highest vibration I can achieve so that they entrain to that.
Yeah.
I do not claim to take my energy and fix them.
Right.
If I start thinking I'm doing that, I'm ruining everything because no healer does that. The
Right.
divine and the patient do that.
Hmm.
But I work in that way through helping energy blockages get clear. I work with muscle balancing and things I used to do as a chiropractor years ago, to let blood flow and nerve energies and those blockages get out of the way, and the
Right.
meridians to get clear. And I do, if someone comes in and they have a particular pain in a certain place, I use some of the tools I've had for many years to help with that. But the
Hmm.
main work I do is getting them deeply relaxed, clearing away the energy blockages and the physical blockages to allow them to heal, then getting them into a state where they can start digging up and churning up and getting rid of the limiting negative beliefs that are in their way. And then I start putting in suggestions of how about feeling better about yourself? How about picturing the life you want and feel it and see it and imagine it and really get into it and let your body know it and start changing your sense of self. I spend
Yes.
about an hour and a half with people, which by itself puts me pretty unique. People don't do that. But I spend about an hour and a half with each patient. Yeah.
Mhm.
I do all of that.
That's
And every
wonderful.
session we go a little deeper and deeper and deeper.
That's great because the deeper you go, the more healing that you encounter, and you become a better person, and you feel better, and you think better, and and
Yeah.
life starts to change for the better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, can you share the philosophy behind your healing approach? Like, how does your sessions work to restore energy and promote well-being?
Well, I think I wrote that as a suggested question. I feel like I've answered it. I'm not sure what more I can say about that. The philosophy we've talked about, that's pretty much what I write about in the book, for instance, but I also share with my patients why I'm doing this and what I'm doing, so they can relax. I tell my patient, nothing I do is going to hurt you. Just let go. Just relax and
Yeah.
just let things happen and feel your body, feel what's happening inside you. Be aware. Awareness is wonderful. Awareness is the first step. If
Hmm.
you don't know what's going on with you, it's not going to change. When you
Right.
do know what's going on with you, grace changes it.
Yeah.
You don't fix it. You bring it up into the light of consciousness, and it will dissipate because it doesn't like the light. This goes back to Socrates saying, the first thing, know yourself. You have to
Right.
know who and what you are and what's going on within you. So I get people to get inside and experience themselves.
Hmm.
Then I have them experience, we were talking about visualization. The wonderful thing about visualization is that over the last 50 years or so, there's actually been a lot of experiments with neuroscience and psychology. We know that your body does not know the difference between something you've experienced in the physical world of this outer reality and something you've vividly imagined in your imagination and experienced within. You get
Mm.
the same changes in body chemistry. You get the
Oh,
same changes in your emotions and all the chemicals that change as your emotions change. They're
right.
identical. And this, I mean, this goes back with my understanding, at least as far as my dad was a salesman, and I remember him telling me a long time ago now, he would stand outside the door of a client for several minutes before he knocked on the door. And he would visualize making the sale and having a wonderful meeting. And he'd
Yes.
picture that and feel it. And then he'd knock on the door. And he told me once he started doing that, his sales went up enormously.
Right.
And so I learned that idea long ago. Then I remember reading about an experiment done in the 70s where some kids who loved playing basketball, a psychologist broke them up into, first he tested them doing foul shots.
Hmm.
What rate of success are you having shooting foul shots? And then he divided them into two pretty equal groups. And he told
Right.
one group, for the next 30 days, you're to come to the gym every day and practice foul shot after foul shot after foul shot and just keep practicing.
Hmm.
The other group, he told them, you are not to come to the gym for the next 30 days, but spend an hour every day visualizing,
Yeah.
shooting, and swishing through the hoop every time. And
Right.
after 30 days of the kids practicing and the kids visualizing, he brought them back together and retested them, and both groups had improved. And both groups had improved virtually by the same percentages.
Wow.
So the body didn't know the difference.
Yeah.
It increased the skill, just by thinking about it and picturing it. Yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
we know we can change our lives by doing that,
Right.
but at
That
least
makes
30 days.
Now, on your upcoming online course, it sounds transformative. What inspired you to create this program, and what can participants expect to learn from it?
Well, partly I think uh, reading my book is a really wonderful thing to do.
Hmm.
But I think a lot of people don't learn as well that way as
Right.
others do.
Hmm.
And by having me teach, if you will, or express these ideas in short little videos that they can take in, seeing me speaking with them and listening to the words
Yes.
is very helpful. And I also have all this experiential things to do, transformational activities related to each video,
Right.
journal prompts for those who like to journal, to
Hmm.
reflect and write about. I've always found that writing clarifies my thinking and leads me in all kinds of new directions that I didn't know I was going to go in until I started writing. And
Right.
I know that's not going to be true of everyone, but many people, when they journal, that will happen.
Yes.
When they do the exercises, they will integrate what we're talking about through exercises.
Yeah.
And so I feel it's a very effective way to get this message across. Part of what I hope to do with my book and my practice and with this online course is this world is not going to change until we recognize that everyone and everything is sacred, including me, and everyone and everything is perfect, and everything and everyone is one.
Yes.
If I do something nasty to someone, I'm doing it to me.
Right.
And that's not just a metaphor. When you reach this state of understanding of your true divinity and your true
Mm.
oneness with the creation,
Right.
it's practical and obvious and unavoidable. If you
Yeah.
harm anything, you're harming yourself.
Right.
And the way people treat each other and their spouses and their families and the way nations go to war with each other and religions, hate each other, all of this is because we think we're separate.
Yes.
And if you get this idea, so I'm doing my part to try and spread this and to
Yes.
help people experience, not just hear in their head, but experience their oneness and their sacred truth of what we really are. And love this life and love everyone and everything because it's just me.
Yeah.
Ramana Maharshi, one of the great Indian teachers, was once asked, Master, how do we treat others?
Mhm.
And he said, there are no others.
Mhm. That's so true.
Yeah.
What do you hope most people will experience by engaging with your work, whether it's through your book or your healing sessions or your courses? What do you hope people get out of it?
Well, I hope they start feeling better about their lives. I hope they start feeling more and more that they can be, do, and have the life they want, that
Mhm.
they are worthy. I talk about limiting beliefs. That's the big one. Just about everyone. That comes up sooner or later. What am I believing about myself? And the voice comes up and says, I'm unworthy.
Mhm.
You can't not be worthy if you know
Yeah.
you're God. So you get rid of that limitation, you let go of your attachment to that limitation, and you remember who and what you are, and you become who and what you are, and you start enjoying life. I have this vision of people getting up in the morning, going outside and being together with each other and just smiling, saying, Hey, wow, another day. Isn't this fun? Let's have a
Wow.
great time with each other today.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
Yeah.
So I'm just, again, I'm trying to do my part to try
Right.
and bring these ideas into people's hearts and into their bodies and into their experience.
Hmm.
It's not just something somebody else said. Most of
Right.
our thoughts that go through our mind are actually something somebody else said. We
Yeah.
almost never have a self-generated thought.
Right.
So that self-generated thought is coming from what's perfect and divine in you. And we
Yes.
have to listen for that. And you won't listen to it unless you know it's there.
Yes. That's so true. That's very true. Now, where can listeners connect with you and sign up for your mailing list and
Thanks.
receive a copy of your complimentary book?
Great. So I have a website and it's just my name. It's www.andrewcort.com.
Hmm.
I remind people that my family spells Cort without the letter U. It's Cort, andrewcort.com. If you go to the website, you can find out much more about me. You can find out about my practice. I see
Hmm.
people here in Woodstock, New York, where I live, but I also see people on Zoom. One of the things I learned in putting this book together and doing this work was there's no such thing as space. It's all right here and now. Well, if there's no
Right.
such thing as space, there's no such thing as distance.
Hmm.
So there's really no such thing as distance healing. There's just healing.
Right.
So I work with people in the present on Zoom when they're not in Woodstock at this particular moment, and they
Right.
can find out all about my practice and how to reach me. I'm very transparent. My phone number and my email address are all on the website. You will also find out about all my books. I've written about 12 now, including the new one, Create Yourself Anew from Above Down. And then they can, press a button and it'll shift them over to Amazon if they want to pick it up. It's an Audible as well as Kindle and paperback. All my books are in all three.
Mhm.
And if you subscribe to my mailing list, I you'll be the first to know when the course is ready, which I hope will be in the early fall. But you know, time. I'm still burdened by time. It'll
Yeah.
take me time. As soon as it's out, you'll know. But also, if you put in your email address, it instantly will send you a copy of a book I wrote a couple of years ago called "The Real Cause of Pain and Sickness and What You Can Do About It," and
Hmm.
that will just show up in a minute in your email as a digital version. It's short, it's kind of a self-healing guide. It's very informative. It will also shift your mindset in many, many, many ways about health and healing and what most of us have for most of our lives accepted about health and healing. It'll shift a lot of that, and you'll enjoy it. And if you go to my website, you have all of that before you.
I love it. Now, what are some of the services and teachings that you offer?
Well, I offer my books. I will be offering this online course, and I offer my healing sessions, both in person and online.
Okay. And they can find that all on your website?
All on my website. Yeah. Yeah. andrewcort.com.
Wonderful. Now, if we had to, if you wanted to emphasize on any important factors from today's conversation, are there anything that you'd like to emphasize to the listeners today?
Well, I keep emphasizing what to me is the main idea that you I want to help people remember who and what they really are
Hmm.
and live their lives from that knowing.
Yeah.
That to me is what faith is really about. It's not faith in something outside of yourself. It's certainty of knowing what you know about how sacred and divine you and the universe is.
Right.
And when you have that faith in yourself and the life you're in, because you know who and what you really are, uh,
Yes.
everything in your life will change, and everything will start changing in the world around you and the people who you influence. And it's like,
Yes.
the ripples in a stream. You start sending them out. So that's the main thing. And included in that idea of who and what you really are is the oneness of everything, that we're all one. We're all, Rumi says it wonderfully in one of his poems. Rumi says, "You're not a drop in the ocean. You're the
Yeah.
entire ocean in a drop."
I love that.
Isn't that beautiful?
It is.
And I ponder that over and over again, deepening my understanding of what I think he means more and more. And it's always opening up more understanding the more I tell that to myself. I'm not just a drop in the ocean. I'm the whole ocean in a drop.
I
So I'm
love it.
both the ocean and the drop,
Yeah.
but it's the whole thing, not separate.
Right. Oh, I love that. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much, Andrew, for being on the
Thank
show.
you.
This has been wonderful. And thank you for what you're doing and opening other people's eyes to a new way of healing and really, bringing self-awareness and peace and serenity to themselves and the ability to help people grow in many areas of their lives. So thank you for what you do. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for saying that. And thank you for having me on today.
Oh, you're very welcome. You have a great day.
You too.